Good day, and I have with me today Dana Hart, and she's the director of the Ilsley Library. And we're in the library on the 4th floor.
That's right, yeah.
So now you're the director of the library.
Correct.
And so we'd like the people to know a little bit about your background. So what made you want to be a librarian?
Well, first let me say thank you for having me on the show. Very happy to be here and happy to use this platform to say hello to the Middlebury community. I've only been here 3 weeks. Let's see, I wanted to become a librarian because libraries have always played a really central role in my life. When I was a child, my parents really took advantage of the public programming at my childhood library, so I spent a lot of time in the public library as a little girl. I've always been a voracious reader. I love to read. And as you know, buying books adds up quickly, so my parents sort of reached their threshold and then said, if you want to keep reading, you've got to start checking the books out of the library. So I really fell in love with the library in my hometown in Massachusetts. Really enjoyed the community aspect of going there and seeing my friends, and kind of grew up there. When I went to college, I studied English literature, and my relationship with libraries sort of evolved at that point. I started spending a lot of time in research libraries and academic libraries, and I loved that. And so when it was time for me to graduate for my undergraduate degree and think about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I sort of was thinking, oh, this is going to be so crazy. I'll get a job and I won't be able to spend as much time in libraries anymore. And I kind of realized if I was thinking about it that way, I should probably become a librarian and be able to spend as much time in libraries as I want to. So that's why.
Now, you were someplace else before you came here to Middlebury. You were in New York?
Yes, I was living in New York City for the past 7 years. I moved there because I knew I wanted to be a librarian and I wanted to go to Pratt Institute. So that's where I got my master's of library science. And then I stayed in New York because there were so many exciting opportunities as a librarian in that area. I was I was able to work at the New York Public Library, which was wonderful. And then for the past 3 years, I've been working at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which was really great. I was the manager for library administration at their central research library. I went into librarianship thinking that I wanted to be a public librarian, but I love art history, and so when that opportunity presented itself, it was really wonderful. I got to work with curators and support art historical research, so it was really fun.
Yeah. So then what made you come up here? Because we don't have any of those things.
I know, and it's a big change.
Yes, it is. Got to be a big change.
Well, a couple things made me want to move up here and work at Ilsley. The first is that, like I mentioned, I've always wanted to be a public librarian. And so even though it was really fun to be a museum librarian, I really sort of wanted to make a change in my career and my life and get back to what I really loved about libraries, which is childhood literacy and public programming and building a community around shared resources. I think that's really what libraries are when they're at their best. And so I wanted to kind of get back to that. I wanted to move to Vermont because I have family up here. I have an aunt and uncle in Williston and an aunt in Stowe. And then my partner, Wilder, has a lot of family up here. He grew up in Vermont. His mother lives outside Montpelier, and he has a lot of family in Lincoln. So we have been spending a lot of time in Vermont over the past few years, and we knew we wanted to move here eventually. We didn't know when, but we wanted to move to Vermont, and I sort of had my eye on the Vermont Library job board, hoping something exciting popped up. And when I saw the position at Ilsley, that was really exciting. I knew from Wilder's family in the area that Ilsley is a really active library, that the Middlebury community is really engaged with it. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted to be a librarian at a library where the community is really a part of it and really deeply engaged.
Yeah. So that's good. And you got somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm not that others didn't know that they were doing. I'm just, that was a dumb remark.
No, not at all. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm really fortunate that both Kevin Unrath and David Clark, my predecessors, have been, have left such a
Yes.
great legacy for me,
Yes,
and
they
they've
have.
both reached out, and I've had lunch with them and learned from them already, so I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Yes, they were great.
Yeah.
They were really good. You started work about 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks, yeah, January 3rd.
And how do you like it?
I love it so far. I mean, I have to thank the library and the Middlebury community for being so welcoming. So many people have stopped by my office to introduce themselves. That's been really great. Even though it's only been 3 weeks, I've learned a lot. I would have to say, first and foremost, I've learned how wonderful the staff is. Middlebury is really lucky to have the staff at the library that they do. They're passionate, competent, they love what they do. So that's really been a pleasure to discover. And it's also been really great to meet all the volunteers. We couldn't do everything we do without our volunteers and the friends of the library. I've been getting to know a lot of the friends. They do so much important work raising money through the book sale. They're able to support programming and children's programming, so that's been really great.
And then you have the garden club who did the Christmas trees.
Yeah, there's so much activity at the library. I feel like I'm trying to play catch up and get a good handle on what goes on there, but the statistics are really staggering. Let's see, we had 143,000 visitors last year. It's a lot of traffic for a town this size. We checked out over 150,000 items, books, but also sort of unusual items that you might not expect. We have ukuleles that children can check out, so that's really nice. We have a telescope that if you have a library card, you can check the telescope out for, I think it's a week, and bring it home and use it. So that's been a really exciting way to get to know the community, because I like to think of libraries as a reflection of the community, and there's a telescope here because that's what the community wanted. So it's really exciting to get to know the area that way.
But there's groups that come and use the basement or
the community
second
meeting room, That's in almost constant use. It's really amazing. The library, of course, does a lot of programming there. We have adult programming and youth programming. And then individual community groups come in as well. Otter Creek Poets, and let's see, the Homeschoolers Co-op. I believe condo boards have used it. The Nurses Association have had events and training there before. So that's really a vital resource for Middlebury, and it's very well used. It's a really important community gathering place.
Yeah, like the Democrats meet here, and Garden Club meets here, and all kinds of groups.
Yeah, it's an active community.
Yeah.
And it really, Ilsley is at the heart of that. And the Sarah Partridge Library, of course, over in East Middlebury, another important gathering place for the community.
Do you run that too? Or is that
I work closely with Mona. I believe Ilsley administers that library, but of course it also is administered by I believe it's the Prudential Committee over there, is where some of their funding comes from.
So they have their own.
Yeah, they're integrated libraries, but Sarah Partridge is for East Middlebury in particular, and I believe gets input from that community specifically.
Yeah, yeah. And do you get people from other towns?
Absolutely, yeah. Middlebury is obviously a hub in the surrounding area in Addison County, and we do get library users from Weybridge, Cornwall, further out, you name it. Obviously, the library resources are here for everyone. If individuals who are non-town residents want to check books out, they just have to get a library card. Library cards are free for town residents, and there's a fee for non-residents to get a library card. But to give you an idea, last year we registered almost 1,000 new library cards, and a little over half of those were from non-Middlebury residents. And our children's programming in the summer, we have our summer reading program, which is very popular. And about half of the students who participate are Middlebury residents, and a little over half, about half, are non-Middlebury residents. So I think that's really nice, that Middlebury students get to meet students from the surrounding area and sort of build a larger community.
Yeah, and build friends. Sometimes you meet somebody in town that you really like, but then you also meet somebody out of town get to know what their town's like.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important function that Ilsley plays. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you started, what did you learn about the library that was different than what you were doing before?
Well, it's very different because it's a much broader community that I get to work with now, which I really enjoy. Before I was just working with curators, which was rewarding, but it's a pretty narrow scope. And so I love working here that I get to go downstairs and see Children's Story Hour. Upstairs, we have a reference librarian who's working with people on any number of different research projects. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with a lot of the resources we offer, but things like Ancestry.com and other databases that are available and that we have staff to help support them with. Something that I was surprised to learn and very happy to learn is that this library really makes a big effort to bring resources to people where they are. We're part of a consortium that allows our library users to download free audiobooks and free ebooks at home. So if you have a library card, you don't even have to come into the library. You can use your library card at home. You can use a program called Overdrive, and you can download audiobooks. And you can also do that with music. We have a program called Freegal. You can download, I think, 5 songs a week for free through the library.
Say that again about how you get the book at home.
So it's an audiobook or an ebook. So you can download it.
What's the difference?
Audiobook is like a podcast, like you would hear it through the radio, sort of. And then an ebook it's short for electronic book. So if you can download, I think, a PDF to read on your computer, or more commonly, a lot of people have a device like a Kindle or an iPad, and you can download the book right there. So instead of holding a book, you're holding a tablet and you're reading whatever you've downloaded on that device.
Or a computer.
Or a computer,
Yeah. And you have different countries, different languages, books, or?
The library does. We have some books in Spanish, French, a couple different languages. It's not a huge collection, but we do have books in other languages. And we're cognizant of the fact that Middlebury has their language program in the summer, so we're trying to build that as a resource for them.
So you'd have to have a certain kind of book for the college student, as opposed, I mean, in a foreign
language. You mean
language.
like a textbook or something?
Yeah, in foreign language.
Or
novel.
just novels. I mean, I think I'm not an expert on language learning, but I think that sometimes the best things to do are just read the paper in another language, or read something like Harry Potter, like a book that you've already read before, but as you're learning a new language, you can kind of read a story you're familiar with in another language, and that makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, there are children in Middlebury and the surrounding area for whom English is not their primary language, and we want to support that and have books in their language available to them.
Now, do you have hard copy books for them, or do you have it on computer or something?
I'm not entirely sure the extent of the ebooks. I believe you can get them in different languages, but we do have hardcover. We have hard copy books in foreign languages in the library.
Something a child might be able to.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. Tricia Allen is our youth librarian, and she does amazing work, and that collection is always growing. And so I can check with her and let you know.
Is that why you need a new library or a new addition or something?
Well, there are challenges with the current building. In the first 3 weeks that I've been here, I will say the elevator stopped working and was out of commission for about a half a day. It had to be serviced. The furnace stopped working and had to be serviced. So the mechanical systems are an issue. Like I said, our meeting space, the community meeting room, gets tons of use, but we only have one room that seats more than 8 people. So we could use more space for community gatherings, I think. The children's room has challenges. There's not that much natural light. There's very poor sight lines for the librarians. They can't always see children in all the parts of the library, which is important for their safety. So there are a lot of challenges with the building as it is. And As I think everyone knows, there are plans underway to try and improve the library.
Yeah.
In March and April, I'm going to be holding a series of public meetings to listen to the community and hear what people are looking for in a library, what they want to see as we work on improving the library. So I'm looking forward to talking with people and learning more about what the community's desires are.
Yeah, that's very important because they're paying for it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're given not a non-profit. I mean, it's a non-profit, so you can give that way also.
Yeah, I agree. It's very important for Middlebury to give feedback. And if there's one message that I could send to the Middlebury community, it's that I want to hear from them. If they have services that they want to see, if there's something they think we could do better, I would encourage them to stop by my office or give me a call or send me an email. Like I said, libraries are a reflection of the community, and I want there to be something for everyone at Ilsley and the Sarah Partridge Library. So if there's anyone in the community who feels like the library isn't here for them, I want to hear from them and see what we can do about it.
Well, that's really good. I mean, it's important to keep things going, and to have the public support you and get a return for things that they want. I mean,
yeah, I'm here to work on behalf of the public, and I'm really thrilled to be a part of the Middlebury community. And it'll be an ongoing conversation, I think, throughout my tenure here, what the library should look like and what people need from it. So I'm really looking forward to having that conversation.
now, can they come and see you personally, or is it all
Sure.
on the television, or telephone, or on the computer?
I'm happy to meet with anyone in person. I guess ideally it's best to give me a call and set up an appointment, but if I'm ever in my office, people can drop by, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And where do you see the library going in the future?
Well, I think there's two sort of really exciting trends that I've been seeing with public libraries. The first is sort of a shift from seeing library users as simply consumers of material to seeing them as producers of material. I think there used to be an idea that libraries were just repositories for books, and you came in and you checked out a book and you read something and learned something and gave it back. And I think now libraries have expanded to do so much more than that, and an exciting thing they do now is they allow people to produce their own content. For example, a lot of libraries have something now called a makerspace, which is an area that has technology and equipment that library users can come in and use to work on any number of things. I guess I'll give an example. At Ilsley Public Library, we have a great relationship with MCTV, and we're very happy to partner with them on a lot of things. And one of those things is our digital media lab, which is a nice little enclosed space that has equipment for library users to come in and create something like a podcast. So whereas libraries used to be a place where you can just come in and download a podcast, now you can come in and make your own, and I think that's really great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Another trend I sort of see that I think Ilsley has been a part of and can continue to move in this direction is being a community center, and is sort of providing that necessary place in communities for people to come together and gather. I think this is particularly important for youth, teenagers. Libraries can provide a really important place for them to come together and interact with each other that isn't school, that isn't home, and that you don't need money to enjoy. There's, wealth disparity, I think, for that age demographic can be really can present challenges, and the library fills a really important role in providing programming and just a place to spend time with peers.
But if you're supposed to be quiet in the library, talking to peers is got to be a noisy.
That's a great point. So something really interesting, I think, about children's librarianship and youth librarianship is that there's different age groups, of course, that are distinct, and they all have really different needs. So, for example, we provide programming from birth through middle school, and the space that enables small children to have a productive, enjoyable time at the library is, of course, very different from what adults need. You know, children are going to be loud, and we want to facilitate them to learn through play. So we have a dress-up corner and a Lego table and a craft table for them. And they need their own little separate space so they can be loud. Likewise, teenagers need a space where they can talk in moderate voices, but in voices maybe louder than you would want in the adult section. And the building as it is right now doesn't quite accommodate that. That's another challenge for us. We sort of have young children and teenagers and middle schoolers all grouped together down in the basement. So you're right that it's a challenge to have all those groups smushed together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a new addition or a new library. I personally favor one in town, as opposed to out of town where you have to drive. Because if you go to high school, you can walk to the library, and your parents can pick you up there at a certain time, as opposed to getting picked up or taking the bus and then being home.
Sure.
So it's important that way to be able to get to use and get research, because they do have papers to fill, and to make and learn about and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's exactly the kind of opinion that I'm hoping to hear from everyone. So thank you. Yeah.
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 Well, I'm on a committee that has talked about learning about getting a new library, but we also need a bigger town hall, and they're next to one another. So maybe you can just squeeze them together and just have a sidewalk between the two of them, or you can.
Opportunities abound. There's a lot that we could consider, and yeah.
Even some of the stores nearby that might be closed or not used or something at some point could be used by the library.
Well, I definitely invite you to attend one of these public meetings I'm going to have and give me all of this input, because it's valuable and it's good to know. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know for the public that what you're doing and what the library does. Some people know, some people don't know, and some people know half of it. You know?
Yeah. I still only know half of it. There's so much going on. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I belong to a couple of clubs, and we have meetings here once a month or twice a month or something. So it's important to go to a nice warm room. And then, like I said, the garden club does Christmas decorations.
Sure, yeah. I saw the Christmas tree. It was just coming down when I got here, because I got here in January, but I got to see it.
But we had one in every window.
Oh.
And on the doors. And the garden club takes care of all of that putting it up.
Well, thank you.
And taking it down.
Thank you to the garden club.
Yeah.
And we have that lovely little garden in the back of Ilsley Library, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in the summer that'll be a great place for people to read and have a nice conversation with an acquaintance. So I'm looking forward to warmer weather and enjoying that garden.
It'll come. It'll be a long while, but it'll come. You get used to it after a while. And the weather, I mean, your friend is probably knowledgeable of the weather.
Oh yeah, Wilder is very familiar with the winters up here.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got here just in time for that sort of spat of really cold weather.
Yeah.
But it's good. I knew what I was in for, so.
Yeah. So that would it be early January?
January 3rd was my first day. So new year, new library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It worked out really nicely that way.
Yeah. That was good. Are there any challenges which would prevent it from moving in Future directions,
Mm,
space maybe.
space, yeah, like we already talked about, there are challenges with the building, and we're working on that. It's I would love to hear from others, challenges that they see. Challenges are often opportunities, I think. So when we talk about challenges, we talk about opportunities to improve the library, and that's really what I'm interested in doing. So that's an ongoing conversation.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want, is there something special that you would like to convey to Middlebury?
Just how happy I am to be here. Vermont's a special place. I knew that before I moved here. That's why I wanted to move here. I'm really happy to be a part of Ilsley, and to be living up in Lincoln, and to be working in Middlebury and getting to know everyone up here. I want to thank everyone for the warm welcome. And I really just want to drive home the point that I made earlier, which is that I'm open to listening and learning. This library should be what the community wants it to be, and I'm really looking forward to having that conversation.
Well, I enjoyed all our talk here about the library and stuff. I knew most of what was going on, but not really. I knew there were children, but I didn't know where or what, and I knew there were other groups.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I've really enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, thank you for coming, and I hope you will enjoy the talk as much as I did. Bye-bye.